Hello, and welcome to the Being Human podcast, where we explore what it means to be human, physically, mentally, and spiritually. We upload an episode of this podcast every single week, so whether you're new here or especially if you're returning and you have not yet, make sure to hit that subscribe button. That is the best way you can help support the podcast, and it also ensures you do not miss any of these episodes. On this episode of the podcast, I sat down with the Real Deal Ella Beale. Ella is one of the top prospects in women's MMA in the UK. She is about to fight for her first amateur title on Almighty in Coventry in just a couple of weeks' time. In this episode, we went through Ella's whole journey through the sport of mixed martial arts, beginning with when she started kickboxing at just 4 years old. She's been on an absolute tear for the past 3 years since she started fighting and competing, and we talked about not only the upcoming title fight on Almighty, but her future with a more long-term vision, what her goals are in this sport, where she's looking to get to, and how she's looking to get there. We also had a conversation around homosexuality, masculine and feminine dynamics, a conversation which I always think is incredibly pertinent in our society today. Really enjoyable episode. It was great to hear Ella's story. I hope you enjoyed the conversation. If you do, make sure to hit that subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, drop a comment below, share it around on social media as well. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, make sure to hit that follow button and hit those 5 stars too. Thank you for watching, thank you for listening, and thank you for supporting Being Human. The Being Human podcast is brought to you by Mr. Bassett's Grappler's Coffee and Mr. Bassett's Grappler Soap. Mr. Bassett's Grappler's Coffee is going to get you firing on all cylinders for your training every day, so you can wrist lock, punch choke and oil check all of your training partners into oblivion. And Mr. Bassett's Grappler Soap is going to keep you smelling fresh for your training partners, and it's also going to fight off those skin infections too. All you need to do to pick up these babies or any of the other natural goods Mr. Bassett has is to head to mrbassets.com and use the code WAG10 to get 10% off your order. That's mrbassets.com and WAG10, W-A-G, all caps, 10 to get 10% off your order. And now presenting Being Human with the Real Deal Ella Beale. Okay, so let's start from the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
When did your interest in fighting, martial arts, MMA first begin?
So, one of my sisters, we both got taken by my parents to a small gym in Loughborough, who lots of people at like HW1 will know, John Skillen's gym. And I think I was 4 and she was 5. And my mum and dad just took us there, you know, not thinking much of it or anything like that. Went on the first day, loved it, and then went every week till we both got our junior black belts in kickboxing. And it's all just basically spiraled from there.
From 4 years old?
Yeah, so I was kickboxing when I was 4, you know, just little bulldozing through people, not really, you know, this and that. And then my sister, obviously as we grow up, my sister stopped doing it. And I was like, no, I want to carry on. So I dabbled here and there, but, you know, as you grow up, you lose interest in things and you want to do other stuff and you don't see the benefits in doing it. But my dad was like, no, stick it out. And here I am today. Like, I've been to a few other gyms before meeting Jimmy. And then it was actually John Skillen who introduced me to Jimmy. And I went up to Jimmy and I spoke to him. And at that point, just before that, I was like more focused on judo. But I kind of thought, I want to, you know, keep the striking element to it. He was like, go speak to Jimmy Wallhead. And I was like, obviously I knew who he was because he's Jimmy Wallhead. But
okay, so you already knew.
Yeah, I
it's
knew.
Complete contrast to me, because when I first started coming to the original Hardy Wallhead and training with Jimmy, for the first month I didn't know who he was.
Really?
Yeah, and I'd been a UFC fan for like 10 years. So it's interesting you say. Is that just because living around Loughborough?
Well, yeah. I mean, living around Loughborough and obviously word of mouth and things like that. And obviously at that point he was
in the UFC. Was he in the UFC at that point?
I can't really remember, but I know he was prime and obviously
prime of his career.
Yeah, and active and things like that. So yeah, and that's just, and then now I'm here. So it's like, I remember when I first saw him, God, I would never think I would be doing what I'm doing now. Like, couldn't move my feet. I mean, not that I can that well now, but couldn't even move my feet. I was like chubby teenager and just, you know, and it probably makes him laugh when he thinks about it, because obviously I'm 24 now, a bit more grown up. But yeah, I remember just thinking, F it, walking up to him and being like, yeah, And he was like, yeah, come on then, like, come down and join, and here we are. So,
How old were you when you met him?
when I met Jimmy, I think I was probably, I want to say 19 or 20.
Yeah.
Maybe 19.
Yeah, probably 19, 5 years. I
would
started
say
training
19,
with Jimmy
'cause-
5 years ago.
Yeah,
And
I'd say 19
you were
then.
already with him when I started.
And I was big and teenager.
Looking back, you don't realise, like when you see somebody every day, you don't realise when they lose or gain weight until you then see a photo of them from like a year or two back. And looking at the old photos of you, it's like, God.
I know. The thing is, like, back then as well, like, obviously, I know I was chubby because I've always been a big girl. Like, no matter when my weight's fluctuated, like, I've never been that tiny little kid in school. Like, I've always been quite, like,
stocky.
Yeah, and stocky and broad, and like, I like football and rugby and all those kind of things. So I've always been out, but yeah, God, looking back at them, what on earth? I look back and I'm like, Jesus, was that really me? But yeah, again, like, completely different person to who I am today. So yeah.
Going back to when you originally started, 4 years old is really young.
Yes.
Why? What made your dad send you and your sister there? Has he been interested in martial arts? Was he a martial arts fan? Did he just kind of like scrapping? Like, I mean, the idea of it?
My dad's into boxing, but I think they just wanted to do it as kind of a, I probably wasn't really the best behaved when I was younger. So just something to delve into and have something to, have an output. And I don't even know if they thought we'd even like it, but they took us both and we did. So stuck it out till I was like, 11, 12 there, from 4. And I think originally, I think 4 was too young to join. And it was only my sister that was going to be able to, because I think it was from 5. But John was like, oh, do you know what? We'll just, all right, just bring her as long as she's well behaved. And then I was like, yeah, and so on and so forth. And yeah, my dad likes obviously sports and boxing and stuff like that, but never been a fighter himself. Like a martial artist. So yeah, I think
just did it to stop you running riot.
Yeah, literally. And it did.
What John Skillings, because obviously I've never, is it still around?
Yeah, no, he's still got his base in Loughborough, yeah, for sure.
Was it, what kind of things were you doing? Traditional martial arts, like traditional
I was doing
kickboxing?
Traditional kickboxing, yeah. I was doing that there. And like obviously working up the belts, as you do when you're younger, and doing that. And then when I left there, and I went to secondary school and stuff like that, that's when I started doing judo. And did that in a place in Quorn, and like kind of rolled with that and dabbled with the kickboxing, but yeah. And then I thought I want to move on to MMA and mix all of it together, because obviously I like the individual bits, but mixing it all together. And and those points was like Ronda Rousey, and I would look up to her and be like, wow. Like,
was she a big influence?
100%. And it's like, she did loads for the, I mean, when I watch them videos now, I look and I'm like, obviously like her and someone like Chris Cyborg, like, they're completely different ends of the spectrum. But yeah, she did so much for, fighting for women and UFC and.
Well, it wasn't really, it was a thing before, but it wasn't in the mainstream of MMA.
No, exactly.
And she brought women's MMA into mainstream MMA.
Yeah, and I remember watching that and just being like, wow, like, that looks sick. I want to do that. And then that's where, and watching things like that, being like, it isn't just men who do it. And, these women are like badass women. Like, that's a bit of me. Like, I want to do that. I want to kick the shit out of someone. Do you know what I mean? Not literally, but do you know what I mean? And that's what kind of inspired me. So definitely watching her, and, my dad always used to show me her and stuff like that. And yeah.
Oh, okay, so he would show you Ronda Rousey.
Yeah, and he would be like, look at this. And he still sends me stuff now. Like, every single day my dad is sending me videos. My dad loves it. Do this, do that, and, try this and that. And yeah, and just seeing that's gave me a bit of like I want to give it a go. So that's where it all spiraled from, really, like over the years, just building it up a little bit. And then now I'm training as much as I can.
Did you compete much when you were younger in kickboxing and judo? No,
I didn't really compete in kickboxing, but I did in judo. I competed a lot in judo, and I did pretty well, to be fair. But I don't know, I just lost the love for it. Like, it just didn't give me enough. I wanted something a little bit more. So after I did well, yeah, like, don't get me wrong, I won a load of medals and stuff like that, but I just never satisfied. I was like, I want more. I need more. So I was like, let me try MMA, and let me try that and dabble into each element of that. And I mean, not going off on a tangent, but I remember when, obviously, I don't know if you know that Jimmy used to be based at John Skillen's gym before.
I think, yeah, I did know that. But
well,
that
he
was
used to do some sessions there and stuff like that. And I remember when we moved to the new gym, and obviously met Joe Taylor, and he like obviously was introducing me to the jits and stuff. And at first, I absolutely hated it. Oh my! I used to be like, I hate this. There's Tuesdays and Thursdays. I was like, I hate this.
Too gay.
Hate it. Hate it. Way too gay. And I was like, what is this? Like, you know, I've done like little bits of grappling and stuff like that, but it was in the gi as well. Some of it. I was like, I just hate this. I want to fight. Like, this is.
That's funny. Do you think it was the gi? I mean, I can definitely identify with that because I've never been a fan of the gi. Do you think like it was that you didn't like about the judo, and that's what influenced it with the jiu-jitsu?
I don't.
Or you just wanted something a bit more violent?
Obviously, I feel like
you're not punching people in the face.
Yeah, I feel like
grappling.
With the judo, it was like different to the jiu-jitsu in the gi, because obviously the gi is so technical. You need patience. You got to learn and stuff like that. And it's you can't just bulldoze into it. Like I've got a habit of sometimes bulldozing in, and it's like, you know, Joe's like, no, like you got to learn this craft. And I remember saying to him, and I remember him saying like, you know, stick it out. And I just stuck it out, and I absolutely love it now. Couldn't love it anymore, but at the start, I hated it, mate.
Yeah,
I hated it.
I think like that's your greatest strength, but also your greatest, I wouldn't say curse, but can get you into trouble. Like you are forward motion. Yeah. Like your aggression is just so kind of like primarily innate and inbuilt in you. Yeah. Yeah, and like, did you see that growing up? Like, as a kid, like, were you scrapping at school?
Yeah. I hated school. I wasn't very well behaved in school. And I look back now and I'm just like, it was just a way of saying that I didn't like it without saying that I didn't like it. I mean, you know, kids all the time say, I hate school, but I don't know if they really do, but I swear to God, I hated school. And was just one of them angry kids, and just, not just to the teachers, to other kids. I just didn't want to be there, quite simply.
What do you think it was about it?
I'm very like, you know, being in one place and just doing one thing, and that's not for me.
Too energetic. It wasn't feeding the energy that you had inside.
And it just wasn't a bit of me. And even in primary school, I hated it in primary school, let alone going to secondary. And obviously when I got a bit about myself, and, you know, I was a little shit. And God forbid what the teachers used to think of me. I know they used to hate me. But yeah, I just didn't mentally or physically get anything out of it. Like, you know, just was there because I had to be. Yeah. And I was quite, you know, a bit of fighting and stuff like that in school. And, you know, F you to the teachers and this and that, getting sent out, not really being in the lessons. But do you know what? Fair play to my mum and dad, especially my mum, because she wrote it out for me throughout school and backed me all through it. So yeah. Hard, yeah, because she knew I didn't want to be there, and she used to say to me every day, she'd drop me off just what, day by day, and just one day you'll be over. Just day by day, please. Like, don't think about tomorrow, just think about today, and go there and just complete the day. And I'd be like, right, okay, just today, every single day.
That's cool, because that's clearly the energy you needed. Because if you had, like my parents wouldn't tell me that. They're like, if I didn't hate school. Like, right. I've always been quite academic. Yeah. So you know, there was things about it I didn't like, but it didn't bother me going to school. Like I quite liked it.
Right, yeah.
I can imagine though, if I didn't like it, or like whenever like I was maybe slacking off, not getting the grades that, you know, I could have been getting. Like my parents weren't telling me that. They were saying like, you need to knuckle down. You need to be, you know, especially like my dad's like being an Asian guy, like from there, like
quite
very
serious
academic,
about
studious. Like, oh, you know, you need to make sure you're getting an A, getting, you know, this grade and that grade. But like, if your parents were giving you that energy, that it would have just been, you know, two poles of a magnet repelling one another. Like you wouldn't have been receptive to that, and that would not.
Oh God, no.
There was no way you were going to enjoy those. You weren't going to enjoy school like someone like myself was. So yeah, it's cool that your mum was able to see that and get you through it in as positive way as possible. Yeah, rather than trying to fight you on it.
I think she knew that if she did, it probably would have
just made things worse.
But obviously my sister was the complete opposite to me in school. And so yeah, my mum obviously had to deal with that balance, because my sister was maybe a little bit chatty, but that was probably the most, well behaved and all this and that. And then you've got me, the complete end of the spectrum, like,
Yeah.
she's just like, whoa, like, two completely different ends of the stick that she's having to deal with, like. So yeah, God bless her.
And were you scrapping with girls, or were you scrapping with the guys as well?
Any.
Yeah.
No, just like
that's what I thought it would
yeah,
be.
maybe not even scrapping, but you know how it gets in school, like, everyone's growing up and thinks they're this and that, and heads clash, and it's just little things, and then beef gets created, and that's just how it was when I was at school, like, just beef all the time, like, and maybe not even physically fighting, but just verbally, like, I hate you, and this and that, and groups against groups, and that's just how it is in school, like, well, when I was at school anyway, like, just groups of people, and like, if we liked each other, it was all right, and if not, then it was beef, and like, when I see you, it's, I want to punch you in the face. But yeah, just didn't like school one bit.
Yeah. It's funny, because when I first started training, we always have trained, like, to this day, like, we train with each other a lot. But I remember, even like from the start, when I first started training 5 years ago, we used to train a lot together, like partner together, drill a lot together, get rounds in, spar a lot together.
Yeah, when you used to do your sparring.
Yeah,
remember them
days?
Yeah,
the old overhand right. But
that's all you need, mate. One good shot.
But like before me and you trained together, like, I'd never contemplated the idea that I could be beat up by a woman. Like, not because I thought like I was like Johnny Concrete, but or like I never really thought about it. It's not like I thought, oh, like, obviously I didn't think if me and Ronda Rousey got in the cage, I was going to beat Ronda Rousey. But I just, I never really thought about that dynamic of what it'd be like fighting with a woman, because you just assume women can't beat men in a fight.
Yeah, it's too different.
And I remember, like, the first few times I sparred with you, I was like, fucking hell, like she beat me up. Like, she beat the shit out of me. And that was difficult for my ego at first. And I thought, you know what? And I remember telling my friends, because they were talking about, like, like, women, like, they're not as strong as men and everything. And they were asking me about training. And I said to them, yeah, there's this girl at the gym, and trust me, like, she would take any one of us. Like, it doesn't matter. And I said to them, I said this. I said, look, she beat me up in sparring a few times, and I tried to tell myself, oh, it'd be different if we met on the street. Like, I'd alpha her. No fucking way. Trust me. Like, if this girl came for you, you would be in trouble. Not one of us. Like my mate that's like big guy, 6'5". I was like, no, trust me. Like, there's no way. And they couldn't believe it. But it was new to me. Like, it was a new concept to me. What I'm basically trying to say that like, you were just completely different to like any other girl that I've come across. And at this point, like, I've trained with lots of different girls in the sport, some very high level, very technical, but none of them feel like you. Like, it's not just the aggression, although that's a big part of it as well, your mentality, but in the most complimentary way possible. You feel like a man. Yeah. And I think a lot of people say that to you, and that's not something I can say. I don't think about any other girl that I've trained with, no matter how good they are, and some of them have been very good. Yeah. I mean, I think the answer to that is you're just born with it. Like, do you have an idea of like where like your strength comes from?
Do you know what? When I think about it, because obviously, people that know me know that I'm quite naturally, like, maybe not like, I mean, I'm strong in the gym and stuff, but maybe not numbers in that sense, but like physical and raw, just like, grabbing, holding. And I am probably, I know I'm above the scale there when it comes to other women, but you know what? I think it's just from, obviously, since I was young, I've been doing fighting and this physical sport since I was 4, and obviously that's when you're not even developed, really.
That's a good point. You started at such a young age.
Yeah, and I think the amount of women that I've trained with over that period is so minuscule compared to how many men I've trained with. I think my body has just adapted over the years, that I just feel like, when we're in the gym and stuff, I don't think, unless it's like one of the big boys, it never crosses my mind like, that's a man, so this is going to be, a hard round for me, or I'm not going to win. Like, it never crosses my mind. I just see it as like, we're equal kind of thing. So
Because you've never known any difference.
Yeah, and I think that's genuinely, I genuinely think that's what's, you know, developed me into what I am today, because, you know, I've had the opportunity to just live and breathe training with boys and men, and I've never really known any different. So I feel like that really, like, don't get me wrong, I've trained with some women, but maybe there's been like a few I can count on one hand that I've ever thought, you're like me. You know what I mean? Like, you know, small, maybe, and then that could be like weight difference or whatever, but I've never really, like, maybe a couple, but I've never really been like, you know, I've always been like, yes, I'm stronger. Or it's always like, oh, she's too big, or she's too heavy, or do you know what I mean? She's a weight class above. And I just think sometimes, nah, it's just because.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny. I think it's not as bad as it was a few years ago, but we do live in this woke age where, like, gender, sex is this controversial topic, and it really got lost. Like, at one point, I think people are kind of, you know, de-woking themselves now and acknowledging the fact that, like, men and women are very different. But
yeah,
I feel like a couple of years ago, it was such a controversial thing to say men are stronger than women. But it's true. Like, men, you take the average man versus the average woman, he's far stronger than the average woman.
Scientific.
Strength, durability, everything. So when I say, like, you feel like a man, like, everyone should know what we mean by that, and how much of a compliment that is, and that's the only way I can describe it, because, as you said, it then puts into context what you're able to do. Because anyone in the gym will back me up on this. Like, if we go with another girl in the gym, I know I have to consciously think, like, don't use all your strength. Don't, you know, you got to be careful. Like, they're not as durable and strong as you.
Yeah.
With you,
yeah,
I don't think that. Every other girl I've ever trained with, I've approached it with, I'm going against a girl. I've got to, like, it's my responsibility. Like, it's only fair. And some people are going to say that's sexist. It's ridiculous. No. It's because I care. Yeah, like. To not approach it that way would to be a dick, to be a misogynist, or however you want to put it. I'm consciously thinking, I'm going with a girl, I need to act accordingly. With you, like, I or no one else in this gym thinks that, because you don't feel like the other girls. Like I say, like, strength for strength, it feels the same. Like, durability, you feel the same. Like, you hit in the same kind of way that Amanda's, and you take a shot in the same kind of way that Amanda's. And there's going to be other outliers like you out in the world, and as you continue to ascend through your career, like, you'll come to meet them. Like, when you get to the upper echelons of the sport, it's going to be, like, full of the real deals, full of Ella Beales like yourself. But most women, like, they can't hold a candle to that. And I think you raised a really good point there. I think part of it must be genetic, but as well, part of it does have to be that you started training from such a young age.
Yeah, and obviously just the intensity of it and stuff like that. I mean, you know, someone who hasn't, you know, maybe has done a different sport or hasn't done any sport, maybe, like, if you put me doing that and compared it, do you know what I mean? Like, me doing martial arts and me not, like, I think it would be two completely looking different people, two people with completely different strength and all these different attributes, and I genuinely think it's that. But, like, you saying that to me, I take that as a compliment, and like, and everyone that says anything to me like that, I take it as the biggest compliment. I don't want to be treated any differently in this gym just because I'm a girl. In fact, I want you to go even harder on me because I can take it. You know what I mean? Like, that's what's made me who I am today and made me better, and I've got that dog in me, because, oh, we're going to go light on Ella. Like, I don't get that here. And that's what's pushing me to be better and better. That I'm getting that, I'm getting tested every single day. And that's what I need to get better. Like, it wouldn't benefit me one bit for anyone to go light on me or, you know, sleep on me, because no one does here. And that's why I've leveled up so much whilst being with Jimmy.
Yeah, well, that's what you need as well. That's the whole purpose and intensity that you're approaching training with. You're not training as a hobbyist. Like, you're training to fight professionally and reach the highest level you can in the sport. That's very different to a girl or boy that's coming in just wanting to train for a bit of fun and get better. Like, the same principle applies. Like, if I went with a guy who just trains a couple of weeks as a hobbyist, like, he doesn't want really hard, really tough rounds, and, like, he's smaller than me, then I'm going to approach that round with a similar mentality of, I'm not going to just smash this
Yeah,
guy.
yeah,
Like,
I'm not
like,
going to be a dick.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
That'd be unfair. So yeah, like we'd be doing you a disservice if we ever
Yeah,
went.
oh
Like,
my gosh,
God, like
100%.
I'd never go light on you. God, for my own safety,
Take
my
a
own
liberty
safety
on
and
you, mate.
health.
But yeah, and the thing is as well, like I feel like I'm so far away from my full potential. I've got so many things that I need to get right, and it's like if I'm like that now, then I can only imagine. You know, don't get me wrong. Like one day I want to be a world champion. I want, I want to have belts and I want to do this and that. But I'm so self-aware that I'm so far away, and I can't wait to the day that I, get the opportunity to meet these other women who are, exactly like-minded like me, and we can get it on, and that'll be brilliant for me.
You relish the challenge.
Yeah, like I'm so far away. Like don't get me wrong. Like I'm on track and I'm working towards it, but I'm not even close to my full potential. I know that for a fact. Like I've got so many things that could like shape me to be better. So yeah.
When did you come out, and did that cause any trouble for you whilst you were at school?
I actually came out when I left school.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think it was when I left school and I was like just before I kind of went to college. And like the thing is, like, some people say, they knew from when they were really young, and I genuinely didn't.
Really?
Like, don't get me wrong, I was like the tomboy of the girls. Like I was, rugby, football.
It doesn't get more tomboy than scrapping with the guys.
Literally, and like, kickboxing and stuff. And don't get me wrong, I did like, some more of the feminine sports like netball and things like this. But I just genuinely like I would say primary school didn't bat an eyelid. Like my first time I went to like my first secondary school, because obviously like year 10 I went to a different school, and it was probably maybe in like year 10, 11 where maybe I started to think something going on here, but didn't really put two and two together. And like genuinely, hand on heart, was like not until really like maybe like year 11 I genuinely didn't really bat an eyelid about it. But I remember, and I think that was just because I was like trying to find who I really was, who I like what my sexuality was, and like it's confusing and it's not easy. It's not just like, okay, I'm a lesbian. Like it's like all these thoughts are in your mind. Isn't just like someone's going to tell you, okay, this is what you're feeling and this is what it is. Like you got to find it out for yourself, and that's like a whole process in itself. But I remember I came out to my parents, and they weren't surprised one bit. I honestly,
if you didn't know,
I was like, knew. No one was surprised.
Yeah.
And like obviously, like thinking back to it now, it's like, oh my god, like I just laugh about it because I'm like, it's so obvious. Like I just didn't know who I was, and like finding yourself and stuff like that. And like I'm a really confident person now. Like I'm really like confident in my sexuality, and like anyone will tell you here, like I'm not shy about it, and like everyone knows, and I'm like showing off my girlfriend and stuff like that. Like I'm not like in my little shell, like so. Yeah, I mean, I remember coming out, and they were really supportive, and everyone was supportive. God, like I remember me thinking a bit like, oh God, like I don't really know how I'm gonna approach this, and will people be surprised and stuff like that. And obviously that's hilarious now looking back. But yeah, like my parents were so supportive, and like I told my mum first. My mum was the first person that I told, and I remember telling her and like expecting some like next reaction, and there was literally no reaction, and her just being like, I guess like like I love you regardless, and that was it. And I was like a bit like, oh, I was a bit underwhelming. Like I was expecting some massive like deal about it, and like so on and so forth. But yeah, it's just everyone was supportive. My sisters, brothers, friends, family, everyone. But as I say, I don't really feel like that affected me in school, because I still really wasn't sure in school. I was just, going about it. Like,
did you say you were finding yourself? Were you kind of like actively thinking about it and discovering it, or were you just not really paying it any mind? Or
yeah, I feel like it's like, in society where, it's normalized, right? Okay, to have a boyfriend or so on and so forth, or to be feminine. And like, I'm not, obviously, like the way I dress is quite like, it can be, is quite masculine, and like some things about me are quite like abrupt and like like F you and that dog in me. But don't get me wrong, like I do have my feminine side.
You have some very feminine qualities.
And you know, it can be confusing because it's like, you know, I want to dress like this, but inside I'm like this. Like, it's not like as if I was to think, oh, I think I'm a boy, or it was never that. Like, it was never me thinking like, you know, I want to be a boy. It was always like, I know I'm a girl and I want to be a girl, but I don't. And then it was like, but me liking girls is different. Do you know what I mean? It's just like figuring out what that really was, and then being like honest with myself and being like, okay, yeah, no, I clearly am attracted to women, and like this is who I am. So there's no point me trying to be like, you know, like trying to be someone I'm not, like, you know, liking boys or being with boys or whatever, or just like even lying about it. Like, there's no point because it's not me. But it's easy to do that, isn't it? Because we're taught as society that is normal, especially obviously when I was younger. Now it's a bit different, but when I was younger, you know, boyfriends were girls and boys is like, that's it. Do you know what I mean? So that's what I just thought was what I had to do and what was normal. But yeah, took some time to figure that out.
Yeah, but you didn't feel any resistance about it, and when you then came out, there wasn't any resistance.
Yeah, it was just like a weight lifted off my shoulders, because it was like, no, this is who I am, and I never, and I'm very lucky because all my family and friends were supportive, and like I've not really, don't get me wrong, I've had people who are outside of that, and I've had loads of shit for it, but homophobic comments and things like that, but never from people who I care and love about. Like, I know obviously there's so many people in the world that have come out and like their parents have not been supportive, and God, I can only imagine how awful that is, because God, that would be awful. But I'm so lucky that wasn't the case for me.
Yeah.
And I'm just blessed that it was all like smooth running. Like, you know, I came out and it was like, I just was like, oh, and that was it. I never had no backlash off it, not from my family and friends anyway.
People that would throw homophobic comments your way, do you think that was arising out of real homophobia, the fact that they didn't like you were gay, the fact that they don't like people are gay? Or do you think there were people that would have been talking shit to you regardless, and that was just an excuse, just a way to talk shit to you?
Yeah. No, I do think it's homophobia. Like, there's so many homophobic
It's interesting because the reason I ask is because...
I'm just going to take this card.
And I suppose this is a good barometer of the people I surround myself with. I don't know anybody that's genuinely homophobic.
Yeah. Do you know what? It's one of those things that's like, you know, when you go out or you go to a pub and you go, like, when I was younger and I was like, I don't go clubbing now, but like, if I went clubbing and like, you know, it's always the same comments like, oh, you don't, how would you know if you've never tried, or, do you know, all of those, and like, oh, like just all them generic comments, and it's just like, or you know, saying things to my friends. And obviously, like, when I go out, I don't dress feminine, like I dress how I want to dress, like, and it's just like you're always getting that one person is saying, and I'll be honest, I've never ever really never had a female be homophobic to me. It's always been men.
Yeah, it's good. Older men or even men of like our kind of age?
Always been older than me. And it's like, you know, people that are stuck in their ways, or people can think what they want to think, and everyone is entitled to their own opinion. And if you know, if you're so narrow-minded that you don't agree with it or whatever, then go ahead and do that. But leave me to, you know, I don't need to be, how would you say? I don't need you to howl abuse at me because that's how you feel. Like, go and feel like that, and that's fine. But leave me to do what I want to do.
At the end of the day, like, how's it affecting you?
Yeah, and it's like,
how's it affecting them?
And it's like, it's not my job to educate people on why they shouldn't be homophobic. Like, you can go and do that research yourself. Like, this is who I am. If you don't like it, then fuck off.
Yeah.
Quite simply and abruptly. Like, it's not gonna. Now it does not affect me one bit. God, I just laugh. But obviously, when I was younger, I was just a bit like here and there. But now, God, couldn't say anything to me about it. Like, I know who I am.
Yeah, I think, and this may sound like I'm trying to excuse them being homophobic, which I'm not. I'm just trying to like understand it from their perspective. I think, like, as humans, as people, oftentimes we don't like things we can't understand.
Yeah.
Like, we're almost afraid. Like, we're afraid of the unknown. I think that's an innate
100%.
fear in us. And if we can't understand something, if we can't figure it out, if it's uncertain to us, we have like this automatic pushback against it. and if those people took the time to actually delve into it and go, okay, is there a problem with this? Like what am I mad about, or like what am I apprehensive about? And I mean, from my point of view, the answer would be, well, nothing.
Yeah.
Because I remember growing up, and this wasn't a result of like anything my parents ever said to me, or anything anyone externally has said to me. But I remember growing up, like the idea of homosexuality was like strange to me, and like for a time, like early teenage years, I did think, oh, like that's wrong. I'll admit, I thought, yeah, like that's wrong. Like, and I remember, obviously, like you're a lot of schools in this country are kind of Christian in nature.
Yeah,
and what I said in an English class once, and the English teacher completely shut it down as soon as I said that. I said, well, God made Adam and Eve. He didn't make Adam and Adam.
Yeah.
And that was me just like taking what we'd been told. I couldn't understand it. But then, like, as I grew up and matured, like it's common sense. It's clear. Okay, like I don't feel that way, but like there's enough people in the world that are gay where it's clearly a thing.
Yeah.
It's clearly how some people are wired. And like, what's your actual problem with it? Like, you don't think it's right?
And that's the thing.
Who are you to be the judge of what's right? Like, is there any harm to it? No. So what's the problem with it?
And I think, and exactly. And I think people that are homophobic or do have an issue with it, I would genuinely love to know why. Because if it's not to do with religion, then, because some people, religion is like against their religion, is like against it, and so on and so forth. But I just think it's so narrow-minded for people to have a problem with it, because why? Do you know what I mean? That's just who some people are. Like, I didn't choose to be gay, and if I did have a choice, I wouldn't be.
Yeah.
Because it's like still deemed as, and there's so much stuff, so much homophobia in this world still, and it's like, do you really think if I had a choice, why on earth would I choose to be different to other people? Like, of course I wouldn't.
Saying if you had a choice, like you wouldn't choose?
Yeah, no, it's like if I had a choice, why would I choose to be different? Like,
okay,
I would, I would just normalize with everybody else. Like, it isn't a choice. It's not my choice. It's who I am. So I think people need to get that into their head. But yeah, like I say, as I've grown up, and I just think, listen, people need to go away and educate themselves. It's not my job to do it.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, like if like the LGBT community was going out there and saying, we're gay, you're all gay as well.
Yeah.
Everybody should be gay.
Yeah.
I could then understand the issue, because hang on a second, this is the end if we do this, like this is the end of humanity, and you're also telling me what I should do because of who you are. But then that's exactly what people that are homophobic are
doing to us. Yeah. So it's like,
if there's no harm, let people be.
Yeah, like it's not that deep.
Yeah,
it's just who I am. Like, I'm not affecting anybody else. I'm doing the exact same things as you, just with a woman and not a man. But I definitely think being a lesbian is, I'm sure, very different to being a gay man. And I think that's maybe even, I don't know, worse off for them. Like, maybe I feel like some people are more accepting of lesbians and girls being together than two guys, especially some men.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Masculine and feminine dynamics. And this is something I wanted to touch on as well, because something you said, and I concur, is that as much as you are a masculine girl, you have some like very outward masculine qualities. Like, you're a fighter at the end of the day. Like, to fight is like a masculine trait.
Yeah,
like, that
100%.
aggression.
Yeah.
Like, so you're clearly very masculine in many ways, but you're also very feminine in others. And the best example, or the best way I can describe this, is I remember this clearly. I think it was me, Joe, Kieran, and Max in the car on the way back from one of the shed sessions.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh, yeah, what a throwback.
Yeah, it was this time of year as well.
Yeah,
like,
so cold.
Up on my phone, November.
Was it?
Yeah, November 2020 that they started.
What a time! What a time!
Yeah, special memories. But I can't remember how the conversation came up. We must have just been talking about everyone at training, and we were talking about you and Joe, and we mentioned, like, we must have been saying something about how, like, you feel like a man, something along those lines. And Joe said, yeah, but she's also very feminine as well. She isn't just like this, masculine girl. Like she's got some very feminine traits. And the way you put it was like if one of the lads in the gym like had a problem or was feeling down, was feeling emotionally sensitive about something, they'd maybe feel more willing or more open to talking to Ella about it than one of the other lads. Because that's a natural thing with men. I know I find that. I find it much easier to open up to women than I do other men. Not that, thankfully I've got, the boys, many guys in my life that I've got, emotionally open relationships with that I can talk to them about my feelings. Yeah, talk to them about difficult topics. But innately, I feel it's much easier to open up and show your emotions to a woman. And I think like Joe kind of hit the nail on the head with that, because like that really rang true. I was like, I feel like if I had a problem, I'd feel like very comfortable talking to you about it. And that's because of your femininity. And I think we're in a weird place, not to go off on too much of a tangent, but we're in a weird place in the world today. And I don't want to pin it on like the whole transgender thing, but I think like you growing up in the time that you did, even though it was only like 5 years prior to like the generation that's coming up now, like you said, like you knew you were masculine, more masculine than other girls, but it didn't lead you to think, oh, I'm a boy. Like you just thought like, oh, I'm a masculine girl, and then like you eventually realised, oh, I'm gay. And I think now, like the idea that you can be a feminine man, a masculine girl, and maybe consequently because of that a gay man or a lesbian girl, like that's kind of not I don't want to say less accepted, but now like there's kind of like an ultimate conclusion drawn from that that means you're that means you're actually a woman, or that means you're actually a man. And it's given people, I think, a lot less freedom to be able to say, not just, oh, I'm gay or I'm a lesbian, but to say, no, I'm a straight man. I'm a man. I'm just more of a feminine man than most. And I think that's a sad thing. I think it's restricted us in being able to be in our masculine energy, be in our feminine energy. And I think that's really important, like you said, to be able to acknowledge the fact that, I'm a more masculine girl than most, I'm a more feminine man than most, and my sexuality may be different as a consequence of that. And if I feel like I'm a boy, like if I feel like I'm in the wrong gender and I want to undergo that transition, that's your choice. And again, like if you're not harming anyone else by it, what's the problem with that? But I think it's important for people to know, like, it's perfectly fine for you to feel more feminine or masculine than the other members of your gender around you, and like that's fine. Like you don't have to feel as though you're in the wrong body.
And the thing is, everyone's different, and it's like, for example, being a masculine presenting woman is like obviously not the norm, but it's like as long as you're confident in yourself, it's like, if you got some feminine energy as a man, like I think that's so cool. Like for example, a man who is just so like nonchalant and just so like, rah, and hardcore and this and that, and it's like be in time with your emotions and have a feminine side and like be able to have a little laugh and a joke and like not be worried if it seems gay. Like that's great.
To be sensitive.
Yeah, like
to be open and receptive.
That's what you should be like, especially in this day and age. Like a man isn't like, I know obviously going way back, a man is like, the man of the house, like strong, tough, this and that,
completely stoic,
and
no
like,
emotion.
That's not how it is. It's 2024. Like be your true self, like be emotional, like be vulnerable, and like that's what I think. And that that's what some people are afraid to do because they don't want to be seen as like gay or this and that. But yeah, I totally agree with you.
Yeah, and I think it's a lot more. I think feminism has done a great job of being able to tell women, like you're allowed to be more masculine if you want to be. You're allowed to be more dominant and take charge. And I think we need a bit more on the other side of the tracks. People saying, as a man, like it's all right for you to be feminine.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, it's all right,
and
like,
switching it around. And
yeah.
It's like the whole, men can talk thing and things like that. And like, and again, that goes back to men being at one with their emotions and being vulnerable, being emotional, and like, it isn't just like, forget about it, plain and simple. Like, men's mental health and things like that. Like, obviously, that's starting to arise now, and like, big like figures and celebrity men are talking about it, but again, like it's really like brushed under the carpet, isn't it? Like, you know, females can be emotional, crying, things like that, but men can't. Like, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it's like I write poetry. I also choke people unconscious.
Yeah, yeah. Like
two very.
Yeah.
One's very masculine, one's very feminine.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm proud and confident to say that I'm happy with that. I'm very confident in who I am.
Yeah.
And I hope other people can be as well.
Yeah.
So I think you do have some people that are kind of really all masculine. There's not really a feminine bone in their body, and there's women that are all feminine and don't have a masculine bone in their body.
100%.
But most people, it's a spectrum. It's a spectrum, and like you're more likely to be 90-10. Some people are going to be 60-40. Some people are going to be 50-50.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Big tangent.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
Back to back to the journey. So I can't really remember where we got to. But you started training with Jimmy. So competitively, you got the judo experience under your belt.
Yeah.
Literally and figuratively.
Yeah.
But you hadn't fought before. You hadn't.
No, I hadn't done like an MMA fight or anything like that before I'd met Jimmy. Like, I'd been doing like dabbled here and there at some other gyms, but never really taken it seriously. Like, I feel like as every year goes by, I've taken it more and more seriously and, like, you know, developed. Like, I'm about to have my sixth fight. Like, to me, I still feel like I've only had one or two. Like, I just feel so
new.
Yeah, like I'm just such a, like, you know, a little puppy in this, like, you know, big dogs and like, things like that. Like people might say, you know, 6 fights, that's not bad. And I'm just like, yeah, I feel like I've not even had one or two. I feel like this is like not my first fight, but, you know, I feel like I've only had one or two.
Was your debut the one in Wales?
Yes, it was.
You've had 6 fights since then.
Yeah, well, this is going to be my
the
sixth.
sixth. That's crazy. Yeah, yeah,
going
they've
for the
gone
belt
by very
and it's
quickly.
just, yeah.
Yeah, let's backtrack and go through them. Before we get onto that though, one question I want to ask you is, because as we've spoke about it a couple of times, like you lost a lot of weight.
Yeah.
And that really came off like during lockdown, during COVID.
Oh god,
right?
yeah, lockdown, yeah. That
so,
was when it all went.
Yeah, but talk to me about the process of that. Because you went from, how heavy were you?
Like 110
kilos.
Yeah.
100 kilos.
Yeah. That was
I still can't believe you were that heavy.
And I can't either.
You didn't look that heavy. You carried it well.
I'm always
looking back. You were obviously much bigger.
I'm quite stocky anyway, and I've always been like heavy. Like, even when I've been like, you know, as I say, my weight's fluctuated a lot, but I was never like even in primary school, like even if I was like shorter, I was always heavy on the scales or whatever. Like, even if I had nothing on me, like I'm just thick. I don't even know. Like,
you moved really well for someone that was you're the same height as me. For somebody that's 5'8", 110 kilos, you moved really well.
Yeah, that was like, that's even like, when I think about it now, I'm like, how did that even happen? But yeah, that was the weight. And then obviously lockdown happened, and my sister was living at home at that time. We were both living at home, and you know, when everyone was doing like the 5K challenges and so on and so forth. So, you know, everyone was like tagging people and things like this, and someone tagged me and my sister in one. And obviously at that time, like, never really even ran. So I was like, 5K, like, that don't seem that far. Like, you know, how far can that be? And I'm like, right, now, I was like, right, we'll go out and do it. I remember, and I swear to God, I went from the top of my street to the bottom of my street, and I literally was dying. And I was like, oh my God, how far was that? And it's like 500 meters. And like, probably not even that. And like, we both looked at each other, and at that point I sort of, and at that point it was just this like light went off in both of our heads, but especially mine. I was like, nah, like, this is it now. I've got to do this. Like, and all through lockdown, and that's when I started running. I got up to like 9-10 miles and over that period. Wow. Yeah, like I couldn't even run 500 meters. And the weight, and I also was pescatarian as well.
Okay.
So I stopped eating meat.
Yeah.
Because my sister was pescatarian at the time and had been for a few years.
You were pescatarian before, or you turned pescatarian?
I turned pescatarian, yeah. So like, you know, it was just one of those things, and I love a challenge, and I was just like, you know, she was telling me the reasons so far, and I was like, all right, let me give it a go. And I think I did it for maybe like 9 months. I was pescatarian for, but obviously that aided the weight loss as well, because I was only eating basically vegetarian foods and stuff like that. Yeah,
It
basically.
cuts out so much crap, right?
Yeah, and like
you're not gonna have burgers.
my body just completely changed, and I remember everyone seeing me for the first time, and obviously you look at yourself in the mirror every day, and everyone being like, "Oh my god, like you look completely different," and me being like, "Do I?" And then looking back now, I'm like, "Wow, like that is ridiculous." Like I'm quite like soft now, still like body, like, but my physique has obviously completely changed. But God, looking at that and looking at this, like
looking at the old photos, it's like I never remember you being that big. Like to me,
I
like
don't
you haven't
remember
changed,
being
but that's
that big.
because
Yeah,
like
you
there was
see,
no point where I
yeah.
didn't really see you.
But yeah, even to me, like it looks crazy. Like when I look back and I'm like, I can't believe that was what I look like.
But the pro school was lots of running,
Loads
and
every day.
cleaning up your diet a bit.
Yeah, every day, and I did that throughout all of lockdown, and yeah, and that's what just sparked. And then that was it. Then like when I went back, it was like I was like, you know, fitter, stronger, faster, like, and then going back to obviously my fights, and then that was when my first fight like that came about and stuff like that, because obviously I was trying to search for a fight for ages. It's hard to get fights as it is.
I'm still processing it. 35 kilos. How many stones that? So that's like
no, yeah,
I can't do that. I'm terrible at maths. That's like 5 stone.
Yes, it's a lot.
That's a lot. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Did you consciously tell yourself like I'm eating less, or was it just like you cut out the meat, you cut out a lot of the crap with that, and then just by virtue of that you're eating less calories?
I mean, obviously then like I was so uneducated in you know, food and like the benefits of eating certain food and like having protein and having like a balanced diet, and like, you know, if you don't know those things, then how are you meant to eat well and adapt? And do you know what I mean? Like if you
it's a matter of chance, isn't it?
If you don't know, you don't know. Like, and obviously as time went on, I was starting to like, you know, asking people and getting more educated, and like what I know about my diet now is completely different to then. Like I still really don't know what I'm doing now, but like I've got Nathan Togan in control of it now, so it's all good. He's the one that, you know, is like my go-to and like does everything for me and is doing everything for me throughout this camp. But yeah, like if you don't know about like nutritious foods and nutrients and what's good to eat and what's good to eat post and like pre-training, then like how would you know? How is anyone meant to know? Like how would you know unless you've been told or you've researched it yourself? Like you wouldn't know.
Yeah, and that's it. And if you're not consciously thinking about it, then you're not consciously thinking about it. Like you're unaware to it. Like you're probably eating Mackies.
God,
like,
I probably
then, and not even
couldn't even tell you what I was eating.
Yeah.
But I was probably never even batted an eyelid. Like, what's in this? Should I really have this? And having a balance, like everything's okay in you know, small doses, isn't it? Like
moderation.
Yeah, that's the word I'm looking for. Everything's okay in moderation, and like, you know, small things here and there. But I can only imagine what I was eating and drinking, and obviously my age as well. Like, you know, that was when I was going out a lot and things like that. So God, I don't even know, but yeah, it was huge.
It was a lifestyle.
Yeah, just living and just like whatever, and that was also because I wasn't like serious about training still at that point. So it's like now all I think about is how that's going to affect me, and you know, with my fighting and stuff. But then, God, I didn't even bat an eyelid. It's like just go Nando's and get Mackies, eat some ice cream. Like God knows what I was eating.
So before we went into lockdown and you were training with Jimmy, did you already have in your head at that point, I want to fight?
Yeah, no, I definitely did have it in my head, but obviously it's like, you know, one, I wasn't ready to fight because I was like not developed enough in all of the areas. But second of all, the weight, like obviously I fighting at lightweight at the minute, and obviously that's the same then. But finding matches and things like that. So basically, it was like you're never going to find anyone over that. So you need to be able to get to that point.
Yeah, 110 kilo
hard as it is. Like, God, I don't think there's even one that exists. But yeah,
well, if they are, they're certainly not stepping.
Yeah,
I would say there's plenty of them. Well, I would say plenty.
Fighters,
there's plenty of them, men and women, but they're not going to be stepping into the cage.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, how would I have done that anyway? But yeah, and then Jimmy was obviously like, you know, because I don't really know about it that much, and he was like, you know, this is how it works and so on and so forth. So this is where you need to be at if you want to do this. And then I was like, Jesus Christ, like that seems low to me. Like, whoa, you know, like, gosh, that seems like it's a lot to lose. But yeah, and it all just basically from lockdown. Really, that's where it all started.
Yeah,
the weight loss and things like that.
Yeah, because I mean, lockdown ended up spanning like a 2 year period, really, didn't it? And it was the end of 2021, December, that you had that first fight in Wales.
I think so, yeah, because I remember that. I think that's when we got our blue belt, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And it was around that time, and and I did that fight in Wales, and we went over there, and that happened.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah. Okay.
So obviously, like, your mindset going in, you'd obviously had a lot. That's all the weight had come off. You'd had basically 2 years with training, the shed sessions, as we mentioned. Then we'd managed to get back in the gym more. You'd had lots of time to prepare. You were definitely at a point where you were ready to fight. Like, anybody that was here training with you could see that. Like, what was your mindset going in? How did you feel? Talk about the fight itself.
Yeah, so it was one of them mindsets where I was just like, I just want to fight. Like, you know, it's don't get me wrong, like, I love the sport, but I wouldn't be able to just train and not fight. Like, I need something to work towards. And it was like, you know, I only wanted to fight when Jimmy said I was ready and when he was happy. And that was what I said to myself. When he says I'm ready and he's happy for me to do it, then I want to do it. And I remember it was a struggle to get a match. And then Jimmy comes to me and he says, okay, you've been offered this girl who the fight's in Wales and so on and so forth. And I was like, oh, and he was like, yeah, just one thing about it though, like, you know, it's not her debut like it is yours. You know, she's had a few fights, and I can't remember how many she's had, maybe like 6, 7, 8 fights or something like that. And honestly, there's not one thing in my mind where I was like, oh God, like, that's too many. Like, I was just like, like, let's do it.
Fully confident.
Yeah, like, let's just do it. Let's just get in there. So we went, and it was the same day weigh-in. But at that point, I was quite, I'd lost a lot of muscle throughout the period of the COVID period as well. And that was probably not eating meat and not having enough protein. So I was quite thin and light. I actually woke up at like, I think it was like 68, 69. And it was the same day weigh-in. And
I was going to say, it was the same day weigh-in.
Yeah, which obviously I'd never do now.
Very strange.
But
it was a Cage Warriors Academy show, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
it's strange that they did that.
Yeah,
it's not
looking
really
back
heard
now,
of, is it? Same day weigh-in for MMA.
But obviously then as well, I didn't really bat an eyelid at that. I was just like, oh, whatever. Like, my weight was just low as it was, so I wasn't really like losing as much to say. I was just.
That's the weight you were at.
Yeah, like I did diet a little bit, but again, like, nothing like I do now. Like, you know, it's a whole process now and like manipulating your body and stuff like that. Like, it wasn't like that at all. Like, I just woke up and I was like, all right then, let's go stand on the scale. Like, and I was with obviously some of the boys and did the weigh-in, and obviously the fight was on that night and all my family was coming. So yeah, I did that. I lost that fight. Lost my debut, which obviously, in the grand scheme of things now, it doesn't seem like a big deal, but it did then. Because it's like, you know, your first fight, people don't really lose a debut because they go against someone who is a debuter. And, And I don't get me wrong.
And it was surprising for somebody like you because, like I said, anybody that was training with you, anybody that knows you, and what you've demonstrated since then is you're good. Like, it was expected for you to win.
Yeah, and like, and obviously I would never go into a fight which I didn't think I could win. Obviously I went in there and like, obviously I don't think that fight is anywhere, but I feel like in the first round I rocked her a few times and God only knows what I was doing, pulling and spinning back fists and all this. Like, it's not the fighter that I am today because I was obviously just a beginner, and I was like my wall, like when she got me on the wall in the second round, took me down and TKO, and it got finished. And I remember, like, I don't even remember, it all happened so quickly. Like, I don't even remember like her getting her hand raised and me. I just remember me after being like, how have I just lost that? Like,
the result isn't really if memory serves anyway, my memory of it, because I remember watching it at the time. The result isn't really indicative of your performance because you were busting this girl up on the feet, hitting her. I remember you were hitting her with loads of leg kicks. You could see, like, I wasn't there. I was watching it on video. You could see her leg was marked up. You were chewing her leg up, piecing her up with the hands. I think you won the first round handily.
Yeah, I think I did win the first round,
And then the second round, she got you down.
Yeah,
and then
I think she double-legged me,
Jimmy was mad about the finish, wasn't it? I remember him being mad about the finish because she basically hit you with a few shots on the ground.
Yeah.
I think she got her hooks in, hit you with a few shots
Yeah.
as you bellied out, and the ref called it.
Yeah.
And, you know, I mean, obviously we're all going to be biased, but it was a premature stoppage.
It was a controversial one at the time because, you know, we maybe felt like it was stopped early, or, you know, it was their show and their fighter.
Yeah,
and so on.
And we don't want to go down this road.
Yeah,
we've done it a lot on this podcast with the fight recaps, but there was a link between her
and it's just,
and
you know,
whoever had set it up.
But listen, it's one of them. I lost, and I haven't lost since. And that really grew me as a person and as a fighter anyway. Like, I'm glad that happened, because going into every fight now, like, what's worse than losing your debut? Like, I mean, obviously there is worse things, but like, you know, that completely went out of my mind. Like, going into my second fight, I was like, nothing can be worse, and I've already lost.
Yeah.
So it's like, all I can do is win now and do better, and, you know, and I'm glad that happened now, because it's that shaped me into the fighter I am today. Like, that fear of losing is gone. Like, I already lost my first fight. Like, you know, the most like special moment ever, having my first fight, all my family traveling to Wales, and I just lost like in the second round. So yeah, that was what happened with my first fight.
Yeah, and then as you've said, it's been
up
one-way traffic
since.
since.
Yeah, on the up since. So
I mean, you've had 4 fights since then.
Yeah, four fights
since then.
Over the period, yeah.
I mean, I'm not wrong in saying none of them really have been close, have they? They've all been decisive wins.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, I would say, what was it? Well, the one I did after that, I won by TKO. Then I've had 2 ref decisions, but clearly won the rounds, and then
judges' decisions.
Yeah, but won the rounds, you know. And then my last one, obviously, I had that opponent change, and twice, and then the third girl that I went with, that was TKO in the first round as well. So now I've got the opportunity to fight for the belt on the 14th, which I'm looking forward to. And that's where I'm at with it all, really, at the moment.
Your opponent for this fight, what's she like? Do you know much about her?
So she's 4-0, my opponent. And I think she's like a kind of judo-y kind of girl. A lot of throws, like, I think she's won her fights on the ground kind of thing. She's quite like a forward pusher. But listen, I think I'm better. Like, I think I'm better everywhere. And I think if I'm my true self on the day, then no mercy. Like, I'm going for it. Like, I'm not leaving that cage until that belt's mine. Like, to have I've spoken to Jimmy and Joe about it, and, you know, it's about time now where I start getting some belts and getting kind of things to take with me, and like to have whilst I'm looking to go in pro, and, you know, not just on this show. I want to be getting at least 2 more belts if I can, at least 1 or 2 more after this. And the title shots really are what's important now.
Yeah, well, we've put off doing this podcast pretty much all year.
Yeah,
because we've been waiting for you to.
Yeah, well, I was meant to, wasn't I? Yeah,
get a title fight. That's what we've been saying. You've been saying, yeah, I want to do when you know, I've got a title on the line, because, like I said, you lost that debut, which was pretty controversial. I think. We shouldn't dwell on it, but I can see multiple scenarios where, like, you know, you escaped that position, they didn't call it, and like you end up going on to either finish that girl later in the round, in the next round, or win the decision. But apart from that, it's all been one-way traffic. Like, none of these girls have been able to give you anything. Even on the grappling side of things, like, you've competed in multiple sub-onlys, multiple jits comps. And you're undefeated in jits, right?
No, I'm not now.
Oh, you're
not?
No, that's sorry.
Don't worry. Honestly, like, I competed not longer. I did a little tournament. I went with Joe Taylor, and lost my last match. I got armbarred. But again,
it's been very dominant on the jits side.
Yeah,
other than girls
that
you know, they're only training jits. Jits is their like full-time gig.
Jiu-jitsu girls, yeah.
And you've been subbing.
Been subbing them, and I think that's been good as well, because that's like I feel like, you know, before my striking was quite dominant, whereas like my wrestling and my ground game was a little like you know, a little bit lost, like a little bit behind. I feel like I've really caught up. If anything, I've gone above my striking, and now I need to, like, you know, with the striking, be like, I need to bump that back up. But I've learned so much by doing those, and obviously I'm so grateful Jimmy and Joe have put so much into me, like, you know, even just like the one-to-ones with them, and like before fights or grappling matches, and, you know, coming with me. And that's helped me stay active, especially when I've not been able to get fights this year. Like, I've only fought once this year. Obviously, this is going to be my second fight, but that's like really kept me working towards a goal, because that's what I need. Like, I'm not ashamed to say I need something to work towards. Like, sometimes I do need a rocket up my arse, and I'm sure Jimmy will tell you that. And he probably wants to rip his hair out sometimes with me. Don't get me wrong, like, I'm dedicated, I'm passionate about it, but sometimes
when you've got that concrete goal in sight,
when I'm like, right,
it's an extra gear.
Yeah, that's what I'm working towards, full force. Let's go. But, you know, when I'm like, oh, like, I'm just itching, like, I just want to fight. But I remember when I was really, really struggling to fight, and I remember Jimmy just looking at me and saying, you know, your time will come, be patient. And ever since then, everything's just come to me. Ever since he said that, like I was struggling, I couldn't get anything really, like, especially after the first like one or two, like, I was really struggling. Him saying, like, you know, be patient, train, work hard, and like, you'll get these opportunities and they'll come to you. Like, you know, you'll attract what's meant for you. Like, you know, don't chase it. Like, chasing it's so hard, nothing's coming, being so upset and being like, God, what am I doing this for? Like, what's even the point? Like, should I even be training? What's the point? You know, now things are coming to me, and it's just like, I'm getting asked to do stuff, and it's like so true. And it's just like, you attract and things like that. Don't chase it. Like, it'll come to you when the time's right. And that's really honestly what's happened the past 2 years. Like, and that's just like what's elevated as well. And just him saying, stick it out, be here, like, live this life of being a fighter, and good will come to you. And that's what's happening. Yeah. Like,
did you listen to me and Tom talking about this?
I listened to that podcast.
That is like one of Jimmy's best teachings.
Like,
don't chase it, attract, and work hard.
And I remember, I remember him saying, you know, to Tom and stuff, and with his fighting, when he was fighting and stuff like that, and it's just so true. And when you're like self-aware of it, and like, you're just living in the moment, and it's like, you know, it's so true. Like, let things like plan out how they're meant to. Like, the world, like, it will come to you. Like, you know, you can't, I'm not like creating these opportunities for myself. Like, they're now coming to me, and it's just like, I'm happy about it. Because this is what I've always wanted. Like, this is what I want. And don't get me wrong, there's shit days in the gym and times where I'm like, what's even the point? Like, you know, and I'm sure everyone feels that way. But yeah, I'm glad I've now got something to work towards. And obviously, me as a fighter is elevating and where I want to go to. And like, that's slowly becoming my reality. Like, you know, this is my life, and it's only going to get better and more intense, and training more and not working, and so on and so forth. So, yeah.
It's that old saying, isn't it? Good things come to those who wait. Yes. I'll change that to good things come to those who work hard.
Wait.
Because that's really it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Continue to work hard. Be patient. It'll come.
Exactly. 100%. And it's like, you know, there's this big conversation at the minute in the gym about, you know, we shouldn't be saying, you know, okay, now we're in camp, let's turn it up. It's like, we should be doing this every day anyway. And I think, obviously, like, the past 6 months has really been like a bit of a wake-up call, and been like, listen, if you want to do this, you have to put everything into it. Can't be half-hearted. Can't be given even just 70%, or, you know, oh, I've got this thing I need to go to, or I'm going out, or, you know, so like, you need to be here as much as you physically can be. Like, you know, when you did the pod with Jake's a great example of it.
Yeah.
And
credit where credit's due.
Yeah, 100%. And he'll probably take the piss out of me for giving him a bit of credit.
That's it. We don't want to give him the credit. His head's big enough already.
No, he is. He looked phenomenal. You know why he looked phenomenal? Because he's here all the time. He's training his arse off, and that's what you need to do. You've really got to live this life if you want to be good. God, there's amateurs training like professionals these days. I mean, look at what the pros are doing. Like, you think you can just be here and there? Like, you've literally got to be obsessed and be like dedicated and passionate, and be here even when it's a bad day and you feel like shit, and just turn up anyway. And they're the sessions that always matter the most. Like, don't get me wrong, the days where I feel great, I like, you know, I'll walk off and I'll be happy. But the days that I feel shit and I'm grinding, and they're what matter in the long run. Like, that's what feels so good when you get your hand raised. It's like, oh my God, all them days I just went home and I was like, oh, so upset with myself. It's all worth it.
Yeah.
because I've just won, and like all that hard work is just showing right now. I've got my hand raised. I'm just like, you know, that feeling is like no other. I can't describe it. You know, getting your hand raised in there and just coming out the cage, seeing everyone's face. That's what I'm doing all this for. Chasing that feeling of feeling great. Yeah.
That's reminded me of a great Ronda Rousey quote she used to say, and I think she said that her mum, because her mum was like a successful judoka, wasn't she?
Yeah, they both were. Yeah.
Yeah, I think she said it was actually from her mum. She was re-quoting her mum. Her mum used to say to her, "You're training to be your best on your worst day."
Yes.
So on those days where you really had to push through it, where like the gears weren't turning, but you made them turn anyway. Like they're the ones that really count.
100%. And it's like, you know, although this sport is physical, it's also so mentally, you know, so many emotions that are running through. I think, you know, everyone here is so passionate and wants it so bad that, you know, sometimes everything just comes out, a little cry here and there and so on and so forth. Like this is just a game. Like, yeah, like it's a lot of mental as well, and you've got to have the mental capacity to be self-aware and go away and be like, right, let me go back tomorrow and do better. Like, you can't just give up. Like, you know, this is what I need to work on. You've really got to, as Jimmy says, you really just have to live the life. And I think that's, like, my mindset's quite really changed over the past 6 months. Because I'm like, if I want to do this, I need to do it.
Yeah.
With 1000% energy and, you know, be here on my worst days and be missing family events and not drinking when you're going to these events, not eating when you're going out, and like, you know, I'm sure the greatest fighters in the world have missed 1,000 amazing things to be where they are today. And it's like, they're only small things in the grand scheme of things, because now you're a world champion. Like, just because you missed your missus' birthday dinner, like, do you know what I mean? Like, in the moment, it's like, but that's what you're giving up, and that's what you're sacrificing. And that's what it is, really, sacrifice, isn't it, in this sport?
Yeah, that's it. It's a massive part of being an athlete. It's a massive part of being a professional in anything that you do. And like, to draw a comparison, it's all about, are you willing to make the sacrifice for what you're chasing or what you're wanting to attract, what you're going for? Like, you know, looking at all those lawyers, investment bankers, high profile professionals in the corporate realm that I was surrounded by in London, like, they're willing to I'll tell you, like, for nothing, they're willing to sacrifice their missus's birthday. They're willing to sacrifice everything, their health. They're willing to sacrifice their whole life to stay in that office, to chase the next sum, to close that deal. And like, we can obviously talk about whether that's healthy or not, but the philosophy's the same. Like, to them, rightly or wrongly, like, they've got their goals, they've got what to them is their purpose, and they're willing to sacrifice everything for it. And as a result, like, they're a killer in their game. Because of it. In their realm, in their arena, they're the best. They're killers. And the same applies with athletes. Like, yeah, you're not going to be able to eat that slice of birthday cake. If you fight in January and you've got a big weight cut, you're not going to be able to eat whatever you want on Christmas Day. Like, that's the crux of it. And it's difficult, but that's where you'll separate out the people that really want it, 100%. That really want that championship, from the people that are like, oh yeah, I want to fight, but I kind of also want my Christmas dinner as well.
It's 100%. And it's like, don't get me wrong, I'm no angel in that. Like, you know, it's taken me every year, you know, my mindset is like more, and my mindset changes, and I become more, you know, dedicated and sacrificing more. But it's one of those things, you've got to do it yourself. I mean, someone can tell you as much as you want, you know, this is this, and you've got to sacrifice and this and that. But until you really want to do it yourself, like, that's what matters the most. Like, it's got to be up here. Like, okay, I'm gonna dedicate myself. I'm gonna sacrifice everything to be here and be the best. Because, as you say, people who are elite, earning millions, loads of belts and things like that, they're not doing those things. You know what I mean? They're sacrificing everything. And that's what you got to do to be good in this sport, in anything really.
Yeah, that's it. The path that's well trodden. So many people. The reason it's well trodden is because so many people have walked it before you, because it's easy. Like, you want to get somewhere no one else is, you have to do things that no one else is doing. Like, you can't expect to get exceptional results if you're not willing to live an exceptional life. And part of living an exceptional life is not doing the things that everyone else is doing and doing the
Exactly.
things that not everyone else is doing.
Exactly. And I think it's like that thing of being comfortable, and it's like it feels so good to be comfortable, but so shit to be uncomfortable. But being uncomfortable is what makes you better. Like, you know, doing the things that you don't want to do, that's what excels you. Like, being comfortable is so, so easy, and most people are just happy to live their life, be comfortable, and do the same thing that they're doing every day. But like you say, there are people who excel and become like elite in anything, and the ones who go the opposite way and get comfortable with being uncomfortable. That saying, like, it's so true.
Liz.
And you really have to, like, you know, be right, have it all going on up here to be able to do that, because it's not nice being uncomfortable. No one likes it. Like, no one wants to be uncomfortable, but that's what you have to do.
Yeah.
To be better and to be great. So, yeah.
What's the prediction then?
For the fight?
Yeah.
I don't see it going past 2 rounds, honestly. I don't see it going past 2 rounds. I think I'm better everywhere. I'm confident, and I think when I show up, and I'm going to show up on that day, I'm not leaving without that belt. Like, we're going 4-0. All of us are going to win. We're going 4-0, and we're going to end the year well. And I don't see it going any other way. That belt's going to be mine, 1,000%.
Yeah.
100%. Like, no way. Like, my energy is, I'm going for it. Like, that's mine. I want it. And I'm going to get it. Like, I don't think it'll go past 2 rounds, to be honest.
And then obviously not looking past the challenge in front of you. But if you could just talk to me, like, what do you see in the future? What are those goals you're looking at? You talked about being competitively driven. Do you have like specific goals you want to accomplish in this sport?
Yeah, so listen, everyone's goal is to make it, like, everyone here in the gym's goal is to make it big, make it to the UFC, you know, these massive, huge shows. But like, if I was to talk about, you know, short/medium term goals, it's next year I want to get at least 1 or 2 more belts. And I also, obviously, want to drop down a weight class and fight at feather, and that's a whole thing in itself. And then, yeah, maybe do that a few times, and then I would be looking to double into going pro, 100%. Like, if I work hard and I live this life and I put everything into it, and, like, you know, my goal is to be champion of the world. Like, that's what I see. Like, I have that self-belief. Don't get me wrong, I'm a million miles away right now, but that's where I see myself. Like, I'm doing this to be great, to be the best in the world. Like, why else would I do it? Like, that's my reason. I'm not just, you know, here and there. Like, no, I want to be the best. You know, I want to be on TV fighting the biggest people and the best, and challenging myself and being the best in the world. That's where I see myself, honestly. Like, that's my mindset. And I'm working towards that by having those little goals of these fights that I'm having now. And then, yeah, maybe like at the end of next year, me and Jimmy can talk about the next steps and things like that. But obviously, like you say, for now, it's this belt. Next year, hopefully fight on BMF, get that belt at feather, hopefully, and then dabble here and there. And yeah, that's what I'm looking to do. Like, ultimately, that is what I'm looking to do. Obviously, go pro, but it's about the right time, being, you know, fit enough, strong enough, technical enough, having everything right, ticking all these boxes. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not going to be perfect. No one's ever perfect, but the level is so high that, you know, I've got to get the formula correct before.
You're not rushing.
Yeah, and it's so true, because everyone is their own best critic. Like, you know, harshest critic, should I say. And everyone thinks, you know, like, I know for a fact that, don't get me wrong, like, I know I'm good, but I'm not even close to being as good as I could be. So it's just changing those little things, adapting, finding the right formula for my training, and yeah. But yeah, ultimately, I'm doing this because I truly believe that I will be a world champion.
Yeah, so you should be as
if
well.
If I work hard, and you know, that's not going to come easy, God. But if I give it 1,000%, that's where I want to be.
Anybody that knows you knows that's your potential. I'm excited to watch you fight, as always, in a couple of weeks' time, and I'm excited for everything there is to come, Ella.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you.